You are looking live at the State Library in Indiana's capital city of Indianapolis. It is where Governor Mike Pence is expected to have a few remarks in just a few minutes about the whole notion of religious freedom and that Religious Freedom Protection Act, the state bill that he signed into law just last week, that has been the subject of
huge firestorm.
Yes, to say the least. With Miranda Kahn, J.D. Hayworth back with you. Welcome into Hour 3 of America's Forum. And the reaction has prompted Mike Pence to pin a column today in the Wall Street Journal.
Right.
And Governor Pence insists, here's what he says, quote, "Our new law has been grossly misconstrued as a, quote, license to discriminate." That isn't true. Presumably he will expound upon that theme in his press conference, but let's talk about constitutional protections and legal questions. And that's why we're so pleased to have with us the professor of law from the Harvard Law School, our good friend Alan Dershowitz, also a contributor and blogger here to our parent website, Newsmax.com. And Alan is the author of Terror Tunnels, the case for Israel's just war against Hamas. Professor, we appreciate your time. Your quick take on the Indiana statute that Mike Pence signed into law last week.
Well, the statute itself is fine. It's the absence of a corollary statute that says that you can't discriminate based on sexual preference or national origin or race or gender, and sexual preference is left out. So when you combine this statute with the absence of a statute protecting sexual orientation, it can be construed as an invitation to bigotry and discrimination. We have to have a balance here. I mean, I wouldn't want to see a statute that said that a Catholic priest had to marry two men, or an Orthodox rabbi had to perform a marriage of two men, or somebody who had deeply felt religious beliefs had to violate his religious beliefs. We have to balance religious beliefs against our deep commitment regarding discrimination, and this statute doesn't do that. But I would not favor a statute that eliminated completely some protection for deeply held religious beliefs when there are alternatives.
What do you foresee happening in this news conference?
Oh, there'll be some backing away, because it's all about money. It's all about business now. It's all about will companies hold their conventions there? Will the NCAA continue to use Indianapolis? It's all about business. It's no longer about anything principled or moral. It's about bottom line money.
Alan, we appreciate your thoughts. Stepping now to the podium, the governor of the state of Indiana, Mike Pence. Citing the golden rule from Holy Scripture and Hoosier hospitality that he says is more than a simple advertising slogan, Indiana Governor Mike Pence, at the press conference that continues in Indianapolis, says that he would hope the General Assembly, the state legislature of Indiana, would send him this week clarifying language with reference to the new religious freedom law in the state of Indiana. The governor said he was taken aback. He characterized some of the media coverage as distorted and a misrepresentation of the bill. But what does it really say legally? To talk about that, we're joined again by Harvard Law School professor Alan Dershowitz. Alan, very quickly, your reaction to what Governor Pence had to say.
Well, pressure works. Clearly, he was capitulating to the external pressure to boycott Indiana if this law wasn't amended to specifically guarantee equal protection to gay, lesbian couples. And he's agreed with that, and he's going to change it. And that will fix the law. The law as fixed will probably be better than the law in some other states which don't give specific protection to gay and lesbian couples.
I'm curious, Alan, you heard him reference the Hobby Lobby case. Do you think this is more of an issue about contraception than it is about gay and lesbian rights?
No, I think it's more about gay and lesbian rights as it has developed in Indiana. Of course, it could apply as well to contraception, and there's no statute in Indiana that would protect that, and the United States Supreme Court has said that as long as there are alternative methods and there are less restrictive alternatives, that religious considerations have to be weighed in the balance. And, that's right. We need a balance here. It's crucial to have a balance. There's no perfect solution here because people have deeply felt religious beliefs that are sometimes inconsistent with governmental policies regarding equality and non-discrimination. How to strike that balance is very difficult. Indiana did it in a terrible way, leading with their chin. And there were questions of the motives of the legislatures. Were they really compromising and giving the anti-gay lobby something in exchange for not getting something back?
But Alan, there are legitimate questions too about the political motives of those who are opposed to Governor Mike Pence. For example, he just cited the Bill Clinton signature on federal legislation that was introduced by Chuck Schumer 2 decades ago.
Right.
Now, there has to be a political part of this equation that is not about gay bashing, but instead about Mike Pence bashing, is there not?
Well, it's possible. I think things have changed. I mean, I think back when Schumer introduced the bill and Clinton signed it, remember that bill was designed to protect Native Americans' use of peyote, and an Orthodox Jewish psychologist wearing a yarmulke in a courtroom. Those were the 2 cases that led to the Religious Restoration Act. The people at that point, neither Bill Clinton nor Barack Obama had, quote, evolved into believing that equality for gays was mandated. We've seen such a dramatic change in attitudes toward protecting the rights of gay and lesbian couples that I think that has to factor into it, too.
Well, let me ask you, I just have to ask you one other thing about, quote, legal evolution.
Right.
The fact that the Attorney General of the United States, without clear statutory language, is moving forward in several states to promote legal opinions that institute gay marriage. As a constitutionalist, does that not concern you?
Well, I would wait for the Supreme Court to decide that case. It'll be decided in June. Look, there's been a lot of focus on motives here, and it's very hard to discern motives. One of my favorite signs has a chicken crossing the road saying, "I hope for a world someday where a chicken can cross the road without his motives being questioned." And everybody's questioning everybody's motives here, and we don't have any hard evidence on that. So I think the best thing is to put motives aside, change the law, fix it, make sure that gay and lesbian couples have complete right, but don't require Catholic priests to perform marriages or rabbis, if they're Orthodox, to perform marriages. We have to strike a balance between religious freedom and the right against discrimination.
Well, I have to ask you, though, is it possible to achieve that balance that you're talking about? Because you're saying don't force a priest to perform a gay wedding, but then you heard a reporter in the audience asking the governor, does this mean that a florist can deny a gay couple flowers?
Why
and
would
the governor responded and said no.
I can't imagine any religion that would tell a florist that you can't sell flowers to a gay couple. That just takes it to such an illogical extreme. You're selling flowers. You're not asking, you're not supporting or confirming what people are doing. You're selling flowers.
But Alan, as an attorney, when someone comes to you and asks a question, legally, you are not obliged to defend them in a court of law, are you? Just someone making a request. So when you offer legal services, just as a florist offers that commercial service or a caterer offers that service, why then, sir, should it be obligatory with the power of the state to define it as discrimination if you say, no, please find someone else to do this?
Because it is against the law in Massachusetts and many other places for a lawyer to refuse service to a woman or a black person or a Jew or somebody who's gay. Lawyers can turn down a case on the merits, but we can't discriminate.
So again, we can't question motives, but some attorneys might have problems with, quote, the merits of the case.
Well, it's you can use circumvention, obviously, but we had a case in Massachusetts where a lawyer had a policy which she announced that she would only represent women, not men. And the Commission Against Discrimination held that to be unlawful, saying you can be a feminist, but you can't be a sexist. And we know that if a law firm had a policy of never representing black people or gay people, they would today be subject to some kind of sanction. So I think we have to have a sensible way to balance this. It's not going to be easy because you're going to have a lot of gray cases in the middle. this one was handled very badly, and I think the governor, to his credit, is trying to fix it, and I suspect it will get fixed pretty quickly. And Indiana, at the end, will be in a better place in relation to equality for gays and lesbians than it was before this whole brouhaha occurred.
All right. Well, let's switch subjects. There's something else that's happened today, if we can. In a couple of minutes, we still have you, Alan. What is going on now? Newsmax.com reporting that the negotiations, we heard there was a looming deadline, but now they found a framework to continue on through June. Does that surprise you in any way?
It doesn't surprise me. I knew for sure that this process would not end with no deal, with a walkaway on both sides. It's just too important to both sides to try to get a deal. And my concern is that it's so important to the Obama administration, has something to show for all this, that they may be willing to compromise too much. I hope they're finally getting some backbone with the help of the French and saying, no, we're not going to give even more compromises. We're going to stick to hopefully 15 years, not 10 years, and hopefully sending out some of the uranium to Russia so it can be reprocessed into rods. But we'll wait and see. Congress is looking over their shoulder, and that's the right thing. The Constitution is working well. When Congress looks over the shoulder of the president and says, we're not going to approve a deal if you back away and give the Iranians everything they want without demanding from them considerable compromise.
But even having said that, the president says he's going to veto whatever the Congress does. Question for you. I know you don't like talking about motive, but why is the Obama administration so hell-bent on this?
They have a worldview which is inconsistent with that of Congress. They trust Iran, essentially, to change over the next 10 or 15 years, and that seems to be putting hope over reality. But Congress can maintain sanctions without a presidential veto, and it may have enough votes if the deal is bad enough to override a presidential veto. So the president has to be a little bit concerned about Congress looking over his shoulder.
2 minutes remain, Alan. You've made no bones about the fact that you've supported President Obama in the past politically. You offered some rather harsh criticism about his stewardship right now. If you got a call from the President of the United States and you could offer him advice, would you share with us what that advice would be?
Stick to your allies. Make sure that you don't abandon the Saudis, the Egyptians, the Jordanians, the Israelis in the quest or hope that maybe you'll be able to change Iran. Make a deal that's enforceable, that's verifiable, and that has consequences if it's broken. Show some backbone, become a better and tougher negotiator, and then I can continue to support you. I still support his domestic policy, but I do not generally support his foreign policy.
Ultimately, though, what do you think is going to happen?
There'll be a deal, and it won't be a good deal, but it will be probably good enough to survive congressional overruling, and only time will tell whether President Obama goes down in history as the Neville Chamberlain of the 21st century, allowing the most dangerous country in the world to become a nuclear power, or whether he'll be seen as having foresight and will have prevented Iran from trying to take over the whole Middle East. My fear is that it will be the former rather than the latter, but I hope it will be the latter rather than the former. So we have to wait and see.
And on that somber, quasi-hopeful note, Alan Dershowitz, we always appreciate your time and your analysis. Of course, Alan Dershowitz, the author of the book Terror Tunnels, and certainly offering a point of view today that we appreciate a great deal. Now, when we come back, we're talking about controversy with the Constitution.
Yeah.
Author Steve Berry takes a historical look at the 16th Amendment. You still got to fill out your tax return. That's right. That's straight ahead here on America's Forum.